type of animal trainer on the planet uses it, except for the horse people. But when you're on the horse, you can't use that. So when you're sitting on the horse, you're looking at using pats, your voice, telling the horse they've done well, giving them a pat, and just relaxing and being really soft and everything. When you use positive reinforcement to train a horse, the neurotransmitter dopamine is released. You've probably all heard about dopamine. So dopamine creates a relaxed horse, a relaxed state of mind. Dopamine is really conducive to learning, so your horse is able to take in the information, and it also increases the memory length, so they'll retain that information for longer. So your training is actually easier. Your training is easier, it happens faster. The old school way of training horses is that you want your horse to do something, you get them to do it 1,000 times, and by the end of that, they've got it. But that's because they're in cortisol mode. So you have to do it 1,000 times in order for them to get it, because they're not in learning mode. If they've got dopamine in their system instead of cortisol, you only have to do it half a dozen times and they've got it for life. It's extraordinary. You sort of go, when I started doing this, I was going, oh my God, oh no. It just changes everything. With the old cortisol style of training, you're looking at domination over. So the human comes at the horse and we make them do something, we teach them to do and we make them do it. When you're using positive reinforcement, you're looking at communicating with the horse. So every time you're saying something to the horse, you then are looking for the horse saying something to you. And on it goes, backwards and forwards. It's constant. And it's very much a matter of being in the moment and being present with your horse. If your head is off over there, it's not going to work. Horses are in the moment, they're present all the time. They're like little Zen masters out there in the paddock. They're wonderful. So when you go to your horse, there's actually an old saying, leave everything at the gate. And when you go to your horse, you leave everything at the gate. You open that gate before you even catch your horse. Stop thinking about everything that's happening in your life and just be there with your horse. And if you can do that, they are talking all the time. And when I go to horses that have been around humans that aren't listening to them, they're quite shut down. And the first few times you do something, where they do something and then I'll change what I do as a result of what they've done. They're not used to that. It's always been the other way around, and all of a sudden they do something and the human changes and they go, what? And then you do it again, and then they start going, oh my God, they're listening to me, and then they open up, then they just talk, and then they're just talking all the time, the whole time you're with them. It's just like a conversation backwards and forwards continuously. It's such a different way to work with horses. I can't believe all the years I wasted doing it the other way. It's beautiful and it's more effective, it's safer. I am absolutely, I personally could not sit on a horse now and put a bit in its mouth and spurs and whips and the whole pain blanket that I used to ride horses in and feel safe, because I know what's happening. I couldn't do it. I would feel so dangerous in that situation, which for me is really weird, because people come up to me and say, oh my God, it's so dangerous, how do you stop, it's not safe to ride in a bitless bridle, and oh no, you have to have a really highly trained horse to do that. Nah. No. Just brings all the horses down and just brings them into a headspace where they can learn and communicate with you. So what I do is not actually traditional, going back to that catchphrase of natural horsemanship, because in Australia, natural horsemanship usually means Pirelli, or an offshoot from Pirelli. Where I come from is classical. I'm a classical rider, classically trained rider, inventing show jumping dressage, and worked in the racehorse industry as well. So, and worked for a number of trainers, and worked as a trail guide, and worked as a riding instructor for 20 years. So I'm coming from quite a different perspective than most of your natural horsemanship people. And what I do is, yes, there is definitely a little bit of, I've obviously looked at Pirelli because I really, admire what he's done. There's some beautiful stuff there. But I've also looked at Carlos, and I've also looked at this person, that person, and then just my own life. For me, it really is about communication and that openness, going backs and forwards, being in the moment with the horse. And I think we all know this, but how often do we do it? That your horse is actually your best teacher. And we all know that mentally, but do we actually allow our horses to teach us? Quite often we don't. We're so busy in our own little human minds with our own thoughts. So the horses, if I was to say what's the biggest influence on what I do, it's the horses. The horses have been teaching me for a long time. They're amazing. So yeah, I think that's what sort of got me up to where I am now. So what I do now is I made this big decision. Gosh, it was about 4 or 5 years ago now. I was working as a riding instructor and a trail guide, and I was finding it really hard before the trails to put the bit in the horse's mouth and then hand the reins over to the beginner and take them down the beach, knowing what was going to happen to the horse. This was getting harder and harder and harder. I was doing riding lessons with people in bits. They all were getting ready for performances, you know, and everything that's required for that to get your horse up to standard. I was doing that with them. That's harder and harder and harder until I just couldn't do it. So I just became poor, gave up all my work, and yeah, about 4 or 5 years ago, went, right, that's it. I can't compromise myself anymore. I stayed in that working arena way past where I'd changed beyond it. So there was a bit of a grey area there where I wasn't really in there, but I was in there. When I stepped out of it, wow, oh God, okay, yeah, it was a bit tough for a little while. And then, I don't know, it just sort of picked up. And I have a business now called Happy Horses Bitless, and I have lots of people in this area that know me, and lots of people, I have regular clients, and I have people that get me out occasionally, and everything in between. And I just show people how to transition. I sell the bitless bridles. I will help people transition into them if they feel they need help with that. I'll give people ongoing riding lessons if they want that. I help them with their horse training if they want that. Basically, I just help people. At the end of the day, if I can get one horse out of a bit, I'm happy. Every time another horse transitions, my heart's a little bit lighter. So that's sort of, you know, that's what I do. Yeah, and I just talk to people about it, and so I guess just sort of say, hey, you've got options. There are alternatives now that are. In the old days, if you were like me and you weren't really feeling comfortable with that bit in your horse's mouth anymore, then you didn't really have a choice. I tried riding in halters, and like I say, I worked in halt. I work on horses, and riding them up the side of the road and trucks go past. And things happen, you know. And I never really in the training area, beautiful, easy. But I'm out there, you know, out there in the real world when you're doing real things. I just never felt like I had the control when things got crunchy in a halter. And so I really didn't feel like in a work situation I had any choice until I used this. This gives me the control that I need. And it's when I first started riding it, and once you ride for a while, you forget you've even got it on, because it sort of feels like a bit, you get the same amount of control. But yeah, it did change me, I have to admit. As a result of when I started using this, it was just because I wanted to get rid of the bit. But, you know, as the years have gone by, it's just morphed into this thing now. It's changed the entire way I interact with horses for the better. I'm really glad I went there. So if anyone's thinking of, you know, giving it a go, I recommend it highly. As Guy said when he introduced me, he was here with his partner last year. I gave a talk and she bought a bridle, and she was riding with a bit at the time, and then she started using the bitless bridle, and I didn't actually find out from him how long she was in that, but it changed her. And it changed her relationship with the horse. So it gave her the control she needed while the horse realised she wasn't going to hurt him anymore. The horses are like us, they're creatures of habits. You know, so if a horse has sort of got a series of behaviours where it's reacting, then they're going to stay there for a little while after you transition to this. It takes them a little while to forget. Darcy took 3 months. He used to go like this. How'd you go? He'd frown. He'd get these little triangles above his eyebrows when I'd put the bit in his mouth. Took 3 months after riding the bitless bridle before he stopped frowning. You know, it does take a while for them to go, oh, they're not going to do it anymore. Yeah, so she went from the bit to the bitless bridle. Then she's now riding with a little cord around a horse's neck, because she's so changed her relationship with her horse that's where they're at now. And that was just, you know, to go from a bit to that is quite difficult. But I would say that probably if she was going to ride out on the side of the road, on the weekend when there's trucks going by, she'd probably still chuck the bitless bridle on. But that's what you can do. It sort of just changes where you're at. I think I've been raving for ages. Is there anyone have any questions? Yes.
I have a couple of samples you can show us the different types.
Okay. So this is made out of the beater material. I'll pass this around so people can feel it. It's absolutely beautiful. It looks like leather. It's very, very easy to maintain, and they last forever. So this, my bridle that I bought over 10 years ago now, hasn't got any signs of wear or tear whatsoever. They're beautiful and they're lovely and soft. So this is what I stock, the beater. I'm actually vegan, so I don't stock leather products. I'll pass this around so you can have a look. These bridles are made in America. They're not made in China. So the craftsmanship that's in them is really good. And like I said, mine's over 10 years old with no signs of wear and tear. And okay, so here we go. My partner, beautiful partner here, maybe this horse's head, isn't it beautiful? So we've got a bridle on here, so I can show you how it works. I can take the mic with me. Okay, sorry about the bumpy sounds. All right. So you attach the reins to these side pieces here, and these straps are continuous. They go through this ring on the side here. Can everyone see that ring? So you're behind the pole there. So this ring on the side of the bridle, so your reins goes through there. That strap goes behind the horse's head and comes out the other side. So there's that strap appearing on this side. It goes up the side of the horse's face and up over the pole. Your rein, because it's going through this ring, is also attached to the noseband. So when you put pressure on this strap here, the horse is feeling it, number one, here behind the jaw, up beside the face on the other side, yes?
So where does the rein attach to?
Onto these rings here, yeah. On the nose, and then finally on the pole. So you've got if I put pressure on one rein, the horse is feeling it in 4 different places on its head. If I put pressure on both reins, so now you're talking about your brakes, the horse is feeling it on 6 different places on its head. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 with the cross unders. And feel free to come up and play with this when I'm finished. So when I'm sitting on my horse and let's say I'm using X amount of pressure on my reins, if I have a halter or a bit at the end of those reins, then the horse is getting, go for it. That's okay, go for it. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I'm using X amount of pressure on my reins and it's on them just in the mouth, which most forms of horse control put all the pressure in one spot. So if it's a halter or a side pull bitless bridle, it's all on the nose. If it's a bit, it's all in the mouth. So X amount of pressure up here sitting on the horse in one spot. With these, same amount of pressure, it's still X. But now it's not all in one place. Now it's distributed around the whole head. So instead of having a really intense pressure in one place, they have a reduced pressure in a number of places. And it's with a flat strap, not a piece of metal or a piece of hard rope. So it's very humane because it distributes that same pressure. It's very humane because of the flat strap. And you can sort of come out here and have a look and just swivel this around. And what I've done is I've actually put my fingers behind there and just put some pressure on the rein to feel where the pressure is as it's distributed. Because it acts like that, it's extremely humane, but because it acts like that, it's actually quite strong. So that's why when you're riding in it, you've got the same control as with a bit. This is no wussy piece of material. And sometimes, I'll give you the heads up on the biggest mistake I see people make with this is they go, oh, it's just a bitless bridle, thinking it's just a halter or something like that, not realising this is a whole new technology. This is a cross-under bitless bridle. This is a whole new design. When you first put a horse in this, it really is a good idea to do a bit of groundwork and actually put a little bit of pressure here and get the horse to flex their head. Walk them on and ask them to stop. Give them a bit of a feel for it. The biggest probably whoopsie that I ever hear of is dressage riders have a habit of always riding with collection. They'll put this on without any training and bring the horse into collection. The horse goes, what the? They've never felt that sort of feel around their whole heads before, and they can definitely panic. I would. You do not put a bit in a horse's mouth and sit on them and ride them. And you definitely don't sit on them, ride them and ask them to collect the first time they've had a bit in their mouth. That's absolutely crazy. Nobody would do that. This is as strong as a bit, so you do not do that with this. Really, when you ride in it, you need to, as your horse is getting used to it, the same as you would with a bit, lovely long open reins for turning, and just really let your horse have a chance to feel it. For me, because I've been riding them for so long, I can get on any horse and just ride. But that's because I know them so well. If the horse is new to it and the human's new to it, I really do recommend training. Any horse that has done natural horsemanship or completely and absolutely understands pressure release, because this is all working off pressure release. Any horse that understands pressure release, they just like that. But there are a number of people in this world that do work with their horses and they put pressure on the reins and the horse stops or does whatever and they just don't release the pressure. Okay, so with those types of riders, they can have a few problems. So that's, you do have to think about what you're doing. Absolutely. With a bit, you have the ultimate power of pain. You can go if your horse doesn't. I mean, people do it. People do that. So you don't have that here. It's which is great. So that means it's about communication. It really is. That's what I mean. It sort of changes your head. It changes your headspace riding in these. Yes.
Is there more than one type other than the crossover like this?
Yes. So there's two. This is the only one I use because I've tried the side pulls. And for me, I find everyone's different. Lots of people use side pulls and it works for them. For me, it just feels the same as riding in a halter. And if I'm just riding around at home in the paddocks or in the training area, that's fine. But when I'm out in a work environment and I have to, especially working as a trail guide, like you're out in big open spaces and looking after lots of people, I have to have 100% control of my horse all the time. I have to. Their lives are in my hands. I can get that control with this. I can't get it with a side pull. I have tried them, but yeah, like I said, it's just a fancy halter, really.
The guy that designed this doesn't have other designs.
No, this is his design.
The standard side pull is a bitless bridle, but not in this respect.
Yeah, there's two main categories of bitless bridle now. So there's actually been bitless bridles around forever.
Yeah.
The side pull's been around forever, but it never took off because it's just a fancy halter, yeah? But then Dr. Cook designed this cross under, and it is so radically different that now we have a global revolution for bitless riding. This is the design that created that. And then a whole heap of other companies, of course, because this has been so successful, they jumped on the bandwagon, and as you can buy, just about every brand of saddlery now has a version, which is great. That sort of really says how successful it's been if other people feel like they need to copy it. But what happens when other people copy it is that he's got a patent. So when they copy it, they have to make a change. And so, yeah, so people say, I got a cross under bitless bridle, but this is happening. And I go, nah, yeah, okay. So when I decided to become a purist and not teach people in bits anymore, I realised that people were going to say, well, where do I get one? So I knew that I'd have to supply them. That was my initial motivation. So I spent 6 months researching all around the world because I actually import these from America. So not just in Australia, but I researched globally to, which bridle, which company, which brand, who am I going to actually wholesale for and sell? Kept coming back to these guys, just kept coming back. And then in the end, I was like, yeah, well, he designed it anyway. It felt right to go with the original person who actually designed it. And in the years that I've been dealing with the company, they're beautiful. They're really nice. They're as nice as their product. So I'm really happy with my choice. You go online and there's heaps of others. I can really only talk about what I've got and what I do. This is my pick, my personal pick. Yeah. Any other questions? No? Everyone happy? Hello?
What is the material? What is the material made of? What did you call it?
Beta. It's called a biothane. It's a high-tech modern material. It's a synthetic, yeah. But as you can see, it looks like leather. It feels like leather. It looks like leather, but it doesn't crack. It doesn't mold. It doesn't mildew. You don't have to oil it. It's real.